Hello, and thank you for joining us once again on the NCHC podcast. My name is Paul Gilmore, and I am joined by Mikaela Curtis. She is a player for Salt and Light Homeschool here in Houston, and excited to have her on the podcast because we have been talking a lot about recruiting and homeschool players playing at the next level. And Mikaela is someone who has been very accomplished in her high school career and also is going to be playing at the next level. We'll talk more about that in the podcast as well. But to introduce her, I felt like the best way and the only way that I could do that is I'm going to read some of your stats. Okay. And I'm not talking about basketball stats. I'm talking about stats that I think are incredibly impressive. So correct me if I get them wrong. Okay, so we're looking at a 1500 on the SAT.
Yes, sir.
We're looking at a 33 on the ACT.
Yep.
Like a 4.56 or 4.6 GPA, right? Yep. Just stats that blow the academics out of the water. And I think that's one thing that is really impressive. So with all that being said, Mikaela, how are you doing this evening?
I'm doing really good, Paul. It's great to be on the podcast. I've been watching all the other episodes, and I always tell my mom, I'm like, okay, it's going to be my turn. It's going to be my turn.
Well, it certainly is your turn because you have some exciting news that you had posted on Twitter. I guess it's called X now. About your future of playing basketball. But I wanted to have you on specifically because I think the journey that you've taken is a little bit unique and a little bit different than what other homeschoolers may have taken. So through the course of this podcast, I hope that, one, people thoroughly enjoy getting to know you and who you are as a person. But I also hope that people are encouraged about the journey as a homeschooler and opportunities that are there for them at the next level. So with that being said, we just mentioned that you've had an incredibly accomplished career, both on and off the court. On the court, you have, I believe you hit the 1,500 point mark for your career, which is incredible, as well as all those academic accolades that we just mentioned. So if you had to pick one of everything that you've done so far, academically or basketball-wise, what would you say is your favorite achievement thus far?
Okay, that's a difficult question because I've done a lot of things I really enjoyed being a part of. I would say basketball-wise, this year we won Division II at district, and that is the best finish for our girls program, our girls varsity program. And so that was super exciting, something to be able to do with my team. We didn't think we were going to make a team this year, and we ended up being able to have a team, so it was like a miracle year, and then we ended up winning district, so that was great. Academically speaking, I'd say my full scholarship is my favorite thing that I've ever done.
Which is fair. I think it's probably your parents' favorite thing as well.
Yes, my dad
but I have to say, to be honest, I think you're kind of downplaying that Division II win that y'all had. I was watching there at that game. I was sitting on the baseline watching the finish of that game, and it went to overtime.
Yes.
And if I'm not mistaken, I think you scored all 10 points for Salt and Light in that overtime.
I did.
To secure the victory.
27 points that game.
And I remember watching that. I was standing right next to I wasn't standing right next to your mom because she was coaching, but I was standing next to other people and we were just discussing the finish of that game. And anyway, so yeah, quite an amazing accomplishment for those young ladies. And again, excited about your full ride scholarship, which we'll talk about as well. So you had mentioned your team, Salt and Light, was potentially not going to have a varsity girls program. And on the same token, that team is not going to go to nationals. So the program decided that, I think a lot of programs kind of give their team's choice on who goes and who doesn't. And so Salt and Light's not going, but you are going. And so if you could kind of walk me through what's it like going, and also you're going to be playing for Team USA.
I am. So I'm excited to go. I knew from the start of the year that I likely was not going to have a team to go, just the way numbers were lining up. Even when we were able to make a team, we were mostly 14U players. And it's a big ask for people to travel all the way out there. But I'm excited to go. I'm excited to play Team USA. That's something I've not had a chance to do in the past, however, I think this is my 10th year of homeschool basketball, so I've never played Team USA. I'm really excited to go out and support my friends. I train with the CHSA boys varsity team, and I'm excited to go support them as they try and get their national championship at varsity, to follow up their JV win from last year. Our Salt and Light boys are going, so I'm going to be supporting them. I'm our unofficial assistant coach for boys varsity and JV. Coach Rod loves having me on the bench, and I help him out and encourage the guys, and it's really fun. Mainly, I'm just excited to go and be there. A lot of people are asking me if I'm sad about it being my last nationals, but I'm not really sad. It's more like, wow, I get to do this one more time. It's my favorite part of the year.
I think it's a really good perspective to have too, because to be honest with you, that was a question I was going to ask, was how, your thoughts and feelings going into next week, but you kind of laid that out really well for anybody listening. But I think it's really great that you get to go as a senior. Like, I couldn't imagine the feeling of not going your senior year, especially, knowing what's in the future. It almost kind of gives you, I would imagine, a sense of freedom to just go and have fun and
Oh, yeah.
enjoy basketball without the stresses of, okay, do we have to win a Division II or an undisputed national championship?
Oh, yeah, for sure. I'm excited to just play, just work on things that I know I'm going to need in the fall and just have a good time, meet some new people, play games, have fun.
At the same time, you have people that are on your Team USA team who I'm sure you probably don't even know who that is yet. They get to play with the college basketball player for an entire week. So I think it's great experience on both sides of that coin. And so you had mentioned you're going to nationals, right? Going up with your family and gonna enjoy the last go around. But you also had shared on social media that you are looking to film some content at nationals. So you're going to be active outside of playing Team USA. So can you share a little bit more about what you're hoping to do and maybe how people could get involved?
Yeah, so I'm trying to put together a content team to film some stuff at nationals. I was really hoping to target some other committed players, which right now I've got myself, Maddie Herda, Kendall from San Marcos, her last name escapes me, Kendall Beck, who's going to play at HCU. And then I'm trying to pick up one more committed boy. And then I'm also getting some high-level players like Ty from CHSA, Ben Groth from, I think, the Tennessee Heat, Judah Pickens from the Victoria Cobras. And basically, I want to do some Instagram reels, Twitter posts, highlighting these players, and especially the ones that are still trying to get recruited. I want to show, how high level homeschool basketball is played, what it looks like, because I know there's a lot of assumptions out there about homeschool basketball, and I think there's no better place to showcase than nationals, which kind of kills all the assumptions, right? Oh, homeschool games don't have a crowd. I mean, have you been to a game at nationals? Homeschool basketball isn't competitive. It isn't this, it isn't that. We don't have real athletes. So I want to get, clips of the games. I want to get interview clips talking to the athletes about, what are you doing in your recruiting process right now? Are you emailing coaches? Are you calling coaches? What's it like trying to get recruited as a homeschool athlete? And then I want to get info from the committed players. What was your recruiting journey like? Do you think playing homeschool basketball helped you? How? Did homeschooling give you the freedom to work out more, to have more time for this, more time for that? What did you learn from homeschooling that you think is going to help you in college? That kind of stuff. And I think it's going to be really cool if we all come together to just kind of show everyone what it looks like to be a part of NCHBC basketball.
And I think that's an incredibly valuable resource as well, because again, it's one thing for someone like myself or CJ Pomeroy, who are old men, to talk about recruiting and what that process looks like, versus someone who is literally in the thick of it or has been recently and is able to speak on the process that you went through, interview other players that are currently in that process. So I think it's an excellent idea, and I can't wait to see the kind of content that is produced and the impact that it can have on unsigned seniors or lower classmen that are kind of looking or interested in that process. What does it look like? So hopefully in combination, with the recruiting podcast that we put out and the efforts that you have, I think there's going to be a lot of resources for families and for players who are interested in trying to get to the next level. So I commend you for doing that.
Thank you.
And so I have to ask you, you mentioned you played for a long time, and, not to continue to harp on this, but last go around. So what do you like most about participating at nationals?
Nationals, what I like most, I would say, obviously, I love the basketball. Basketball is my passion. Honestly, what I like most about nationals is the community. The experience of being there with thousands of other people and knowing you're all here for the same thing. It's almost like being at a church event, except not. But you're all there together. You have the same goals. You're all there for the same thing. You share a love for one thing. And I just love it. I love going to nationals and seeing people I've seen in years before that I've played against from other states, getting to say, hey, how are you? How have you been? I love getting together and watching my friends play, going from one game to the next all day long and then going out to Andy's at midnight or something. I love the community. I love being there. Homeschool basketball to me is just, it's about family and it's about community. And that's what I love about nationals.
It's a pretty incredible feeling, especially, being on the other side, on the broadcast side. There's so many games throughout the day and throughout the week that, you look up and it's 10 o'clock at night and you have no idea what just happened. Like you just feel like the whole day just went by so quickly. But similarly, I would echo and say that it's just such an amazing feeling to see the same families, the same coaches, the same players that, from they were 12U and now they're on the 18U, or their brothers played or their sisters played. And I would agree, it's just a crazy feeling to be like, oh, hey, I've seen that person on social media. Now they're actually on the court right in front of me, which is just a cool feeling as well. And I would echo I'm looking forward to the high level of basketball that's going to be played. And so again, we talked about this is the last week, right? Coming up next week. So how does it feel? I know you said not sad, but how does it feel knowing that this is the final homeschool tournament of your career?
Yeah, really, it's just kind of crazy, just thinking about it, and just sitting back and looking at how long I've been doing this. And there's been a lot of things this year that I've done and thought to myself, wow, this is the last time I'm going to do this. This is the last time I'm going to do this in high school. My last homeschool basketball practice several weeks ago, my last district, my last regionals. But it does feel bigger, kind of more serious, like, wow, this is really the end. But again, it's not, I'm not necessarily sad about it. And I say that now, but I'm going to cry like a baby at the end of nationals. But I'm not super sad because I know that I'm not done with basketball. I don't have to leave basketball behind. But it is just really, really heavy to be kind of stepping away from something that's been a part of my life for 10 years, which is more than half my life.
It is a beautiful emotion. I mean, you get to that point where all of your career is culminated in, you think about all the work, all the effort, all of the time. And it's not just you, right? It's your family. It's, the amount of times your parents drove you to a gym out in the boonies, the amount of times that you've trained with people, the amount of times that you've, hit that shot or, celebrated with your team or went to eat afterwards. And you think back on it and you get to the end and you're like, man, it's just such a beautiful conflagration of like everything that has to do with what I love about sports and also that combination of family. And like you mentioned, you get to nationals and you see all these amazing people. And I really I feel like I'm kind of gushing here, but I can't get enough of nationals and I obviously can't quit it. I mean, I've been doing it for a long time now, but I think my hope is that you just have an incredible final week of course, basketball. But like you mentioned, getting to do the stuff outside of that. And I hope that you're able to enjoy every single conversation with other players from other programs. And I hope you do stay up really late going to get custard and, just really enjoying that time. And so by the time you're driving home on Saturday or Sunday, whenever you go back, you can really just take a step back and say, wow, like that was cool. So that's my hope for you.
Thank you. I'm excited. I love nationals.
Well, and not to get too far ahead because we still want to enjoy nationals, but looking beyond that, you've had a pretty remarkable and perhaps different journey, kind of unique to the collegiate process. And so I had a brief opportunity to speak with your coach, aka your mom, at regionals and at district about what all went into your commitment. But would you mind sharing just with our viewers what all went into that process for ending up with a full ride academic scholarship to Wheaton?
So basically, at the start of this summer, it kind of hit us that we are running out of time. And I've been sending out a couple emails. I'd gone to a couple college camps last year when I was a junior, but I realized I needed to hit the gas. So I sent out, it had to have been 65, 70 emails this summer. I mean, every day I'm just getting up and I'm typing up an email. Hello, this is Mikaela Curtis from Houston. I made a resume that I made cards that had a QR code. I handed those out at the exposure tournaments that I went to with my summer team. So you could scan the QR code and you would see my resume that had links to film. I was putting highlights on Twitter. I was doing all this stuff. And I had this massive Google Doc with names of schools to reach out to. And 2 or 3 years ago, a friend of my parents had mentioned that his son went to Wheaton College in Illinois and that it's a school for smart people. It's high academic. And so my mom had been saying, put that on the list, put that on the list, put that on the list. So it was on the list. It was really far down the list because I was reaching out to every college I knew the name of first. And I did. I got a lot of responses from a lot of schools. I got to talk to Columbia. I went to camp at Columbia. That was a great experience. It's an Ivy League school. I talked to a lot of D2s, a lot of D3s. And I was working my way through a certain list of schools in a certain area up in Massachusetts. And I was just sending my emails. And there's a Wheaton in Massachusetts. And I Googled Wheaton women's basketball coach. And I emailed that guy. But I had found the Wheaton in Illinois and sent an email there instead. So they were on my list, but further down, and I ended up accidentally reaching out to them, and they responded instantly. So I set up a call with the assistant coach, and it was just a whole lot of stuff, and then it got to when I was narrowing down my decision, and I kind of had, two options, and I was realizing, well, this is going to come down to money, and who wants me more. And then I got that call that I got that scholarship, which I had applied for, and I had applied for a full tuition scholarship, and it turns out that the school every other year gives out a full ride or two for that scholarship instead of just full tuition. So it was a huge thing. When I called the coaches, they were like, we cannot believe this has happened. This never happens. And I really felt like it was God, because I was praying about how am I going to make this decision between two schools that I like, but I don't know which one is the right place to be. And then it was just so crystal clear,
Yeah, you pray for signs, and sometimes it's not like a specific fire in the burning bush, but something like that, which is a full ride. To clarify, full tuition versus full ride. That full ride includes room and board,
Yes.
and all of your expenses paid and all that kind of stuff. So pretty massive, especially not to get too much into the weeds of it, but you look at like cost of living in Illinois, and it's kind of over in the Chicago area, right?
Yeah, it's a little bit outside of Chicago. It's a suburb.
And your process it leads to so many questions for me, so I'll try to narrow it down. But I first was impressed with your process for the idea of a business card that has a QR code. I thought that was brilliant. As a matter of fact, it reminded me of that phrase, modern problems require modern solutions.
Yeah.
And so, just to have that available and have that information just ready to go, I think is such a unique and great way to do it. I did want to ask you though, why did you narrow down to the Massachusetts area?
That was just, I was going in my search kind of haphazardly. I would be like, well, I'm going to organize by level. And then that was taking too long to get through Division III schools. So I was like, well, I'm going to organize by this and that. And it was taking too long. So then I settled down to I'm going to organize by area of the country. And I was like, I'm going to go from right to left. Because I'd been to Boston a couple times for the all-academic basketball camp. And I love the Boston area. I mean, I fell in love. I went, after my first trip, I was like, that's it, I'm going to Harvard. I love it there. So that was one of the first areas where I was really looking at all these places, specifically in or around Massachusetts, because I was like, I want to be there. I want to be where those people are, which is so funny because I'm going to be in Illinois, which is not in Massachusetts.
Yeah, that is funny. There's one of my coworkers, she's from Springfield, Massachusetts. And, there's a Springfield, Illinois, and Springfield, Missouri is where we're going to be next week. And so it's kind of funny how that all works out. So I don't know if I'm allowed to ask this, but I'm just curious. Okay. And I guess if I'm not allowed to, then I'll cut it from the podcast. But you said you narrowed it down to two.
Yes.
Are we allowed to know who the other school was?
Yes, it's a great school. I was choosing between Wheaton and McAllister. Mm. And it was not going to work out with McAllister. Mm-hmm. It's a great school, lovely coaches, lovely players, but it was not going to work out. It was not the right fit for me. And I found that out right before, literally the day before I got the call that I got the full ride to Wheaton. Mm. So could not have been clearer than that,
I was going to say, it definitely seems like God was orchestrating a lot through that process for you to realize, okay, well, I guess this answers my question. And I'm glad you said that too, because on the pod that CJ and I did about recruiting, he also mentioned that student athletes have to realize that just because there is a connection there or there is a conversation that's had doesn't always mean that it's the right fit. And so I'm glad
Absolutely.
that you were able to recognize, as great as the both choices were, that there was one that was a clear call for you, and that you had, some choice in the matter. You kind of got it down to choice. Some people are, well, it's either this or bust. So I'm glad you had choice, and I'm glad it all worked out for you. And I wanted to ask you, so having gone through this process now and knowing your destination, what are some of the main things you would want current student athletes to know about that process?
So definitely number one is don't be afraid to market yourself. Recruiting is really a marketing thing on both sides. Coaches are marketing themselves, but really for the athletes, you have got to market yourself. Post your highlights, send out emails. I would say that's the biggest thing, and it's an easy thing. Send out emails. Just come up with not necessarily a template because you don't want every email to look formulaic, but come up with bullet points what you're going to hit. So I'd introduce myself. I'd list my test scores because I'm not 6'5", so that's kind of my big trait there. Then I'd list my position, and then I'd go research specific things about the school, and I'd think about why, if I attended here, why would I like it? And I put that in my email. And then I made sure to always sound professional, always polite. I always attached a short highlight, a link to my resume, and then a link to a slightly longer highlight. And then I would put which tournament I'm going to be at next in the summer because I played on a travel team. So just emails, send out emails. If you see a coach on Twitter talking about I'm looking for an unsigned 2024 who's this, and this, put your highlights under. DM them. Don't be afraid to reach out because I think we kind of get scared like, oh, coaches don't want to hear from me. I'll just keep playing like I'm playing and wait for somebody to reach out to me. But especially for homeschool athletes, we don't really have that luxury. And honestly, if you're not super tall, if you're not the next, Steph Curry or whatever, there's people are not going to see you unless you make yourself be seen. And then I would say number two is don't get discouraged because that definitely happened to me in the middle of this process. In the middle of this summer, I remember telling my mom, I don't think anybody wants me, and I don't think anybody's going to want me. I remember I called her once, like late at night. I was going to bed, and then I called her literally from upstairs, and I was like, do I have a backup plan? If I can't play college basketball, do I have a backup plan? I was panicking, and she was like, please take a deep breath. You don't need a backup plan because this is the plan, and it's going to work. You've worked for this and you've prayed for this and it's going to work. So don't get discouraged because I was discouraged and then, the next week I got an email from Columbia and I went to camp at Columbia. I spent a week in New York. I got to see a Division I Ivy League campus, you know? And then I would also say, what were my first two things? Market yourself, don't get discouraged, and make sure you find the right fit. Because my coaches at Wheaton, they text me every other week asking how my games are going, how school is going, reminding me that they're excited that I'm coming to play, updating me on their game schedule, letting me know they're praying for me. They want me to come play for their school. And I interacted with a lot of coaches on this journey who were really nice and good coaches, but clearly did not want me. And that's fine because everyone's looking for something different. But find the people who want you. Find the school where you go and you visit and you think to yourself, yeah, I'm a Wheaton student. I could live here. And think about if you get there and something happens, you can't play basketball. Would you still live there? And Wheaton is a school where I would still attend. Their English program is fantastic. The environment on campus is amazing. I love the location. If I tear my ACL or something, which I hope does not happen, but if I did, I would still be a student there. And I think that's super important is finding the right fit.
So I love as well the fact that the first thing you did was put your most marketable traits, because that's one of the things that, again, we talked about when you reach out, coaches are going to be looking for, okay, what's the fit that I need? And not even necessarily just basketball, right? Like you're not going to put on there, oh, comparable to Caitlin Clark, right? Like you're going to put on there, the traits that make you stand out. Because again, you look at these coaches that are receiving, however many hundreds of emails, and like you said, not to discourage you, but if the first thing on there is, I like basketball and I'm good at basketball, how many people are putting that kind of stuff on there, how you're differentiating yourself. And so the fact that you put your test scores there, those schools that are looking for academic strength immediately are going to be drawn in and be interested in that. I also love the research that you did, right? A lot of kids say they want to play at the next level, but they don't know even a list of schools, or they haven't even looked at it, or they don't know if that school even has a basketball team, right? Like there's some research that goes into it that takes work, right? It's not just as simple as, oh, well, I'll shoot this coach a quick DM. Like, I
Right.
love that you had a whole process, a whole plan for how you're going to attack that. And I think that is a good inspiration for someone that's looking to kind of follow in those same footsteps. Granted, not many people will have that same academic prowess, but if you look at that formula for how you can tackle, reaching out and communicating, I think that's incredibly insightful for the people that are going to be playing basketball, not just this year, unsigned seniors, but in the years to come. I hope that that response that you gave has lasting impact for student athletes that are looking to hear from someone who actually did it, right? Again, it's one thing to say, oh, well, here's some of the process, here's what could happen. No, you actually did it. And I think people are going to value that. And I'm glad that you were able to share that. And, I think God's going to use that for sure. So outside of the academics, right? You mentioned you're playing basketball for Wheaton. It's exciting. You're playing college basketball. So, what could, based on your conversations with the coaches and your, understanding of Wheaton, what can we expect from Wheaton women's basketball next season?
I think they're going to continue to be good. They have a really solid, strong program. And the girls, they're committed to the culture, to the goals of the program. They play hard, they fight hard. I watched them practice. I loved everything I saw in practice, all the drills and stuff. And when talking with Coach Madsen, it's clear he knows who he is as a coach and who they are as a program and what their goals are. And they did really well this year. They're doing really well. Last year they did really well. They're a consistently winning program, which is good. I talked to a lot of schools that were lovely, but you look at their wins losses record and they haven't won a game in however many games. And I'm excited to be a part of something that's good, but always trying to be great.
So we've had an opportunity to talk about, God's hand kind of moving throughout this process. How does your own personal faith play into the way that you conduct yourself both on and off the court?
Oh, I mean, my faith runs through everything I do. I've been a Christian all my life, and I'm on the worship team at church, and I really feel that in these next couple of years, God is going to use my college education and basketball to help me reach people, to help me be a light and guide other people. And I really feel called to share about my experience, with recruitment and stuff, as you were saying. And I definitely feel that basketball for me, it's a passion, but it's also, I think, a gift that was given to me. Just my ability to be coached, to be coachable, to learn things. I've always been really good at learning things. I've always been an avid reader, very smart. My academic abilities, that's not something I did on my own, right? That's a gift. And so I remember that, and I thank God every day for that. I pray before all my games, sometimes in the middle of the game, when I need to refocus. I'm excited to be going to a Christian college and be surrounded by other people, other athletes, who are excited about their faith, excited about Jesus, excited about Christianity, and I'm just excited about it.
For sure. You get to wear the jersey one more time next week, but then beyond that, you have a jersey you're going to be wearing for several years at Wheaton. And I wanted to ask you, what is the significance of your jersey number?
So I wear number 14, and that is the number that my mom wore when she played in high school. And she wore it in high school because it's the number that her uncle, Ken Cioli, wore when he played at the University of Houston a long, long, long time ago in the 70s or something. And so it's kind of a family thing that's been passed down. It's the number my sister's going to wear. She wore it this year on 10U, and she's going to wear it all the way through varsity probably. So it's a family number.
That's really cool. I love the legacy behind that. And so we're getting to the point where we're wrapping up the pod, and I didn't want to go without seeing if you had any other kind of closing thoughts or anything you wanted to add before we go.
Oh, not really. You asked really good questions, and I have fun answering.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. And I wanted to let you know that I think that your responses were incredibly insightful. I think you're a lovely and respectful young lady, and I'm really looking forward to seeing how God uses you and how you succeed at Wheaton. And I hope that we can connect, and I'll see you at Nationals here in a week.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you so much for your time. Have a good rest of your time, and we'll see you next week.
You too. Bye.